today's virtual Business Wednesday live session. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A area and we will answer accordingly. Now, I would like to introduce to you our founder and CEO, Miss Mariel.
Miss who?
Miss Mariel.
Good morning, Heather. Thank you very much. All right. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's virtual Business Wednesday. As you know, we do this every Wednesday. When we can't, we make sure that we give you something on a Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock. So we do appreciate those of you who have come back, who are regulars. I see there are quite a few of you. And then there are folks from out of town, from Georgia, from Mississippi, from California. Wonderful. And from, of course, all across Florida and the US Virgin Islands. We really appreciate your taking time to join us this Wednesday. We have a wonderful, wonderful guest this morning. We're going to be all about government contracting. We're not talking about financing and exporting today. We're focusing on government contracts, and we have someone who's got the goods. But before I go to Keith Jennings, I just want to thank our supporters of the Virtual Business Wednesday, the South Florida Regional Planning Council, of course, IMR, that's Keith's organization, Miami International Airport and Miami-Dade Aviation, the City of Miami, the International Trade Consortium, our big friends, Economic Community Development Corp, Strive 305, and we also have our friends at WTC, World Trade Center Miami, and FSB Agency, our bonding resource partner. And there are others out there that could not fit on this flyer, but we know that there are others that have supported us over the years, and we really, really appreciate it. So now I'd like to give you a few words about our partner who is going to be presenting that information to you today, and that's Keith Jennings. And if I can find his bio now, that would be a good thing. Okay, Heather. Did we have a little breakdown here?
No, we're still live.
Okay, so I will come back to that, Keith, because I don't want to keep our audience in suspense. I will talk a little bit more about you. I'm going to give you a chance to go ahead with your presentation. But Keith Jennings is the founder and CEO of IMR Development. I have known Keith for decades, about 3 decades now. And he's a very active person in the construction industry and in federal procurement. He teaches this and he practices this. So, you know, you can't find a better person to talk to you about government contracting. So Keith, I apologize. I'll get to your bio later on, but we want to hear from you and the audience want to hear from you. So thank you so much for being our partner today. And we look forward to your presentation. So take it away, Keith.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gill, and good morning to everybody. Yay. Get ready and buckle up, get your notepad out, because it's getting ready to go fast. There's a lot of stuff to pack in, but trust me, it's worth it. As you know, the procurement environment out here is changing. They're not going into the minority and small business. That whole platform is going to be changing. It's already started. There's lawsuits in the courts right now saying that the word minority cannot be used or utilized in certain areas. Certain agencies are dropping it or put it on pause. So you won't see a lot of minority type contracts being let out. However, the good news is this whole environment that we're living in is nothing but opportunity, big opportunities, because the federal government in particular buys everything. And in so doing, now their mode of operandus for procurement is, let's get it from where we can get the best and the cheapest and the fastest. So I'm today going to break it down for you in regard. We'll start out with the first part of my session is to talk to businesses and people that aspire to be in business, the first timers, to get them prepped as to what they need to do, making first steps to move forward to get into it. And if you don't believe what we're talking about, Google what is the federal budget. And when you Google it, it's going to be in the trillions, okay, with the T. But remember this, there's still a they don't call it a minority goal anymore, so stop saying that word because you get in trouble. They got a participation mode of small business. The categories that are still intact are small business categories, veteran, service disabled veteran, HubZone, Native American, and the 8A program. The 8A is an SBA program that was designed to help small disadvantaged business. That's the other word, don't use, disadvantage, okay? They only those two words, disadvantage and minority, don't go together. So stop it. But we still can qualify in these other categories, and I'll touch on some of that first. But let's talk about the first timers to give them a sense of what it requires to get to a successful business. The first thing I must tell you is you got to go back to the old days of the SWOT analysis. You got to know who you are. What is it? You made a decision to go into business. What type of business is it? What is it? What are the characteristics? What does the customer base look like? You guys are fortunate. When I did this, we didn't have Google. We didn't have search engines and things to go out and get all this valuable information. So now that you have this at your disposal, use it. Create a notebook for yourself to tell you about the industry you're getting ready to get into. What are the ups and downs? What are the things you need to know? What type of capital does it take? What kind of certifications or qualifications? Do you got to be licensed? All of these things are pertinent to your success in the long run. But I guarantee you, if you take the time to do it right, that's why it's called SWOT analysis. Okay, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Make that your mantra. Fill in the lines each time. What is your strengths? And we're not just talking about being the best carpenter or the best mechanic. What about your ability to manage money? What about your internal skills, your bookkeeping and all of the other things? What about your marketing? Marketing goes hand in hand in business. If you can't market your product or your service, you're not getting anywhere. You got to learn how to market, okay? So for me, the startup people, sit down and do that exercise. That brings a whole lot to light. It shows you that, okay, I want to go into auto mechanics. This is what I need to do. You've already done the homework. You don't have to go out there and try to practice or experience it. So you've got some sort of idea how to get to that point. There's a number of vehicles to help you. College and universities, MBDA, for instance, has programs that you can fit into to get your business plan done, do the SWOT analysis, do a lot of these things. The SBA has all of these programs. Florida Atlantic runs a program, I forgot what it's called. Marie, what is that one called? But again, your colleges and universities have, again, some of them come for a fee. Some of them are a decreased fee or a much manageable fee to get the professional help that you need. MBDA is the place you should be starting. Talk to Marie.
MBDA, it's MGill and Associates, because the MBDA programs we operate. So
and they have, not only do they have the programs for here onshore, but they also do import export type stuff. They have a wealth of knowledge. So get into this, understand, and what you're doing is educating yourself to what you need, what is needed. I thought I took this phone off. Sorry about that, folks. So that's the first thing. Get the lay of the land. You're going to go into a seamstress. You're going to go into being a chef. What does it take? You need to know that. You don't need someone telling you this. You need to go and figure it out for yourself, because then you find my favorite word, your niche. What is your niche? What are you going to do different or better to get success? There's people already doing it, but how are you going to make it better to get your feed or your amount of work to be able to make your company successful and prosperous? So there's a number of aids and things that you can utilize, but first you got to be certified or qualified. So you got to go through the process again. Marie Gill and MBDA, they know that inside out and backwards. The federal, the state, private enterprise, corporate America, wherever you're going to sell your goods and services, you have to go through a protocol. You have to be certified and qualified in their eyes, okay? So do all that back work, understand it, then move into the formation of the company. What is the company going to be? Is it going to be a 501c3, which is separate? Is it an LLC? Is it an S Corp, or is it a C Corp? Well, Google will tell you each one of those what the advantages are and disadvantages. Just ask Google. And then you determine where do you want to fit in this corporate structure that is called, business in America. So get to understand what you're getting into. That way you can do it all in and not put your toe in the water. Just get in it, and success will be granted to you. Understanding the business model, the who, what, when, and hows. You got to know your business. You got to know who your competition is. That would be the first thing you learn. Who am I going to be competing with? Who's out there already doing it? You need to know that. And then look at their website or call them up and ask questions. They don't have to know who you are and why, but get an idea of how they're doing it. How are they, and then rank them. Which ones are successful, which ones are average, and which ones are down at the bottom of the list. And see where you want to place yourself. Get involved. Again, I talked about the different categories nowadays, small business, veteran, hub zone. The Hub Zone and 8A programs are ran by through the SBA. So those are programs that it's just an application, you fill it out, you get certified. Hub Zones is certified for many, many years. The Hub Zone certification allows you to have some special events happen. They have what they call a 10% preference on a contract. Let's say you bid it, and this is in the federal space. If you bid it on a contract and you're a Hub Zone firm and you came in 10% higher than another firm, but they're not a Hub Zone, they have a 10% preferential that they can utilize to get the contract to you. Because if you're a Hub Zone firm, and for those of you that don't know what a Hub Zone firm is, the Hub Zone is called as the historically underutilized business zone. Every major city in America got them. It's what we call the hood, okay? So it's where the industries have gone down. It's usually warehouses and all that are dilapidated or just sitting there with no tenants in them. Though if you enter into a business in those communities, you get this preferential treatment in bidding on federal procurement. So look into the Hub Zone program. It's a wonderful program. Not a lot of people know about it, and that makes it even better. If you understand it and learn it and get in there, boom, you get a contract. You can win at 90% of the price instead of 100% that the other person put in. That would have been lower than yours. So that's the Hub Zone 8A program. The 8A program has been around for so long, and I'm going to date myself, and Marie's going to laugh because I was a part of the Blue Ribbon Committee that changed the 8A program from a 5-year tenure to the present day 9-year tenure. So that's how long I've been doing this, okay? But the 8A program, I swear by it, it's beautiful. It's for federal procurement. And the two things you must know about 8A is if you're in the construction industry, or you're in an industry that requires licensing, you do not have to pull permits to do construction on military bases and Native American Indian reservations. The government polices with the Army Corps of Engineers. So they do the inspections, the quality control, they do all of that themselves. So if you want to go build a building, the government doesn't say you have to have a construction license or be a contractor with a contractor's license, particularly for the state, because state inspectors can't go on a federal installation and do inspections. So don't worry yourself about, I've got to be certified. If you know construction, you've done drywall or you're doing brickwork, you can start bidding on projects. You don't have to have a license to do that in the 8A program. The other thing that's beautiful about 8A, you can get as a small business. And by the way, let me stop and somebody that's listening to me, Google the SBA and the small business. What is a small business in the SBA's mind? And I'll tell you, I'll let you look at it, but I'll tell you what it says. A small business is somebody that has less than 500 employees. Okay, so I can tell you stories about companies that I personally know that have 475 employees, make millions of dollars, but it's still a small business. So no worries, don't fret it. You know, understand that, yeah, you can be a small business, and they set aside a lot of work for small business because it is a congressional mandate. It is a congressional mandate, I'll repeat that they do a certain percentage of the budget. I told you about the federal budget. Well, small business gets, I think, 5%, Marie, you remember? 5% of the federal budget.
Raise it to 5. I think HubZone is 3, but 8A is 5.
Right, but altogether, all of those small business, all of those set-asides equal 5% or 3% of the federal budget, which is in the trillions. So we're talking about money here, folks, that they get out. And it's not, they don't have a choice. It's mandated by Congress. It has to be that they share. So you get different types of firms and different types of people looking like whatever, saying now they're small business. Oh, I'm a small business. I got 499 employees and I don't have a net worth over 750,000. Well, they switch it over and put it in a trust or put their net worth in another person's name, so that doesn't show up either. So these are things that make these programs work. If you do your homework, if you read and understand, like I and others have, what it means, you can play in the system. Woman-owned will always be there. Veteran, it's not going anywhere. The small business is not going anywhere. Native American Indian. Now, the Native American Indians, I don't know if there's anyone here with any Indian blood or any Indian relatives, but they have a special deal with the federal government as well. Native American Indians, they get grants. They get all sorts of opportunities from the federal government, because in some cases, down here in Florida, we have the Seminole tribe and Miccosukee and others. Well, they have a private auction. The federal government has an auction, and the Indians can go to the auction and get stuff without paying for it. It's free to them. So to join forces or do a partnership agreement or teaming agreement, which is instruments that you can use to grow your company attached to them. If you've got relations with Native American tribes, get with them, join with them, because they got federal opportunities. Some of them don't even know about, to be honest with you, but they have a lot of opportunities that you can tap into as a joint venture partner with them to do a project. And typically there's work. If you look on SAM, and we'll talk about SAM.gov in a minute, you'll see Native American Indian projects set aside just for them. But if you're on their team as a partner, that includes you now. So basically, for the startup companies, start to research about your industry. Find out where you are, and figure out where you're going, where you want to be in that. Do you want to be mediocre? Do you want to be at the top echelon of, let's say, HVAC? You're in construction and you want to do HVAC, air conditioning. By the way, Florida is hot for air conditioning and roofing. That's the two hot commodities down here, and now data centers. Those are the construction high points. There's always roofs to get fixed in Florida, and there's always air conditioning that break. You can't go wrong with that. And then construction plumbing. So for those that are in the technical space, like architects, engineers, designers, and the sort, There's a lot of opportunity there for you. Remember, construction can't get going without design. It has to be done. Engineers and architects have to put the design and put all that together. So stay focused, get your certifications, decide. I gave you the choice, decide which ones you can qualify for. And if you go on SBA.gov, it'll tell you exactly. One other thing about SBA, once you get in the SBA website and you certify as 8A, it's just an application. That's all you got to do is fill out an application. They take a couple weeks. They send back and tell you you're good to go. Now, in the SAM.gov is the portal that carries all this. It lists contracts over $25,000 every business day of the year. They're all listed there. You can put in whatever search filter or search that you want to search by. If you want to search construction, you want to search whatever the case may be, you put in a list of words, it'll forward to you every business day on your mobile phone, wherever you are. This contract just came out. Here's the value of it. This is what they want. They give you the whole profile. In some cases, they give you the document. So you can sit down and study it and see. As a small business starting out, you can start with that. And there's food on the table that you can start looking at. And then filling it in, I told you before, you don't need a license. They don't do inspections. They have their own people to do that. So you don't have to worry about getting involved in that. So for small startups, there's a lot more we could talk about, but I think right there, if you do that part that I talked about, the beginning part, it'll give you a much better view and vision of where you want to go. You gotta have enough, you gotta understand where you want to end up at. You always look at where do I want to end up, okay? And this is the yellow brick road to follow it. Get certified, go figure out what type of company you want to be and what location. The other thing, geographics. It may not be the best place for you to have a business here in Florida that does snow plowing or some shit. So you want to make sure you put the whole thing together and understand, you know, some people are in business and they're selling stuff, but they don't know who their customer base is. The people are not buying what you're selling. So yeah, you're having a problem. Or in the case of HVAC, air conditioning, yeah, they buy a lot of it, but there's a lot of companies out here that do that. And a lot of them have been doing it for years. So you've got to do this evaluation process for yourself and say, do I fit here? Or what about moving to another state? It's not a problem. You don't have to sit here and do it, but if the other state is better suited for what you do, go in that marketplace and start making money. So for the new ones, hopefully some of what we talked about is helpful. Let me just shoot some sites to you where outside of the SBA, SAM.gov, excuse me, there's VOICED Voice ID, which is a free portal that you just sign into it and they will send you procurements and opportunities every day, wherever. SAM.gov, just sign in, they will send you stuff every day. OpenGov is another one that it's just Google all of those. OpenGov, SAM.gov, Voice IQ, and either one that fits, or you can be on all of them. Now, that's for federal type. A lot of municipalities also use some of these services. You don't see that on SAM.gov. SAM.gov is more for federal procurement. But on Voice ID and each county and city, by the way, and Marie and MBDA can help you with this. They have their own procurement departments and they let their own contracts. They have what they call, there's one called Vendor Link, and it covers a number of counties and cities. So you can get on one of those and you've got all these different cities in different states and everything that will be sending you stuff saying, hey, we need a bid on this, we need a bid on that. And some of those will tell you that they have set-asides. Now, let me talk to the larger ones and those that are small business. There'll still be some tidbits coming out of what I'm going to transition into here. Go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt. Do you want me to go ahead and give a brief on your background, or at this time, or because you're on a roll there? I don't want to.
Yeah, no, I mean, the point here is to disseminate information to them. So talking about where I'm at and what I've done that, I don't think we need to do that now.
I think segue to the existing businesses is good,
Right, yeah. So the existing businesses, the thing that I found to be so successful for me was to, number one, understand my market. And because of Fed, so I had to understand agencies, okay? That's where my niche was. That's where I wanted. But one of the things that you must do and must understand is that you have to get involved in community, okay? And by that, I mean trade shows, missions, expos, social events, certain companies, agencies, whatever, will put on events. Not all of them cost. Women in construction, women veterans, they all have organizations. The chambers, you need to be a part of that. If you're in a professional space, the Society of Military Engineers is an excellent one that you need to be a part of. And it's maybe a small fee, but you get so much intel, you get so much inside information as to what's coming down the pike, because that's the military group. For the companies that are already started and you need help, we mentioned before MBDA, but there's SCORE, there's PTAC, the vets, they got a program, several programs. All you got to do is Google it, ask for small business help for veterans, and you'll get a list as long as date. So the help is out there. For the companies that are already up and starting to get rolling, remember that if you're doing municipal work or if you're doing federal work, you have to register as a vendor. A lot of people miss this really simple thing, but it'll cost you not be able to bid on something, because you're certified doesn't mean you're a vendor of Dade County or Prince George's County in DC. You have to become a vendor. And being a vendor, it doesn't cost anything, but we don't get taught to do that. That's the first step in the agency, is the vendor list. And so the procurement people that work in municipal, they go to the vendor list. Just like in the federal, they go to sam.gov, and then the small business dynamic search. And we'll talk about that for these businesses as well, the middle-sized businesses. So again, registering, the small business dynamic search is similar to the vendor list. You got to go in there and build a profile of who you are. Just because you did sam.gov doesn't mean that the process is over with. You got to get into the dynamic, or DSBS, you can Google it, Dynamic Small Business Search. It's within sam.gov. You get into SAM and then you go, that's one of the drop downs that you can click into, or you can go into it direct, but they tie together. Okay, so when an agent goes to SAM and looks for you, or looks for a company to do something, they want to build a building. So they go into it, they put in the NACE code, which is a construction code for a building. Then it drops down all these companies. And then they have to make a choice as to which company best is suited for the project that they've got coming up. Well, if they look at just your sam.gov, it doesn't tell a detailed breakdown of what you do. That's why you need to do dynamic search, because the dynamic search, they will drill down from your SAM profile into your dynamic search profile, and there you can write a book about what you do there. Everything you need to put in, that's the opportunity to put it in. But it helps because when they go to evaluate, they've got all this in front of them, so they don't have a lot of questions for you. Yeah, this person has the skill sets to do what we want. They're going to put you on their list to send you a bid. So once you go through it first, it's like automatic. You're going to start getting things that are suited for your profile, what you can do. So understand that if you're not on the Small Business Dynamic Search, you need to get in there and get somebody on staff or whatever to put in a proper write-up about you. How many experts do you have on staff? What type of certifications do you have if it requires certifications? What is if you're in the construction and you got equipment, what is your equipment there? What type of equipment do you have? If you're a trucking company, how many trucks do you got? Do you got box trucks? Do you got trailer truck? You got to tell the story. It's all about telling the story. So remember, dynamic business search in the SBA.gov. And I can't emphasize how important it is to get involved in organizations like MBDA and others. Just get involved. They disseminate so much information that's so often, but it sometimes it falls on deaf ears because people they're not doing anything with it. The businesses that are in business, we talked about it a bit, but I'm gonna hit on this a little bit more. Research your product or your service. By that I mean, now again, you got Google out there. Find out how many plumbers are there, how many plumbing business, how many plumbers are in this county, how many plumbers are do this, and then is there a specialty plumber? How many people do that? You got to know all of these things, and then you develop your strategy and determine that, hey, I'm going to take this route because there's so-and-so over there and this one and that. Study your competition, know who they are. Part of your team, and this cannot be missed, part of your team, you got to have a relationship with a lawyer. You got to have a relationship with a good accountant. And you got to have relationships with people like me, a good mentor, somebody that's been there and done that. So you got a sounding board. You got people, if it's legal, don't make decisions about legal stuff if you're not a lawyer. Same thing with accounting. So create those relationships. Even it comes with a fee, but at the interim, just have a discussion. Find out what it's going to take for you to get there. So when you get there, boom. When you get to the point where you can pay $1,500 a month or whatever the fee may be, you know who you want to go to because they understand your industry. Because lawyers are not all lawyers are not lawyers for everything. Okay, so you need to make sure. Same thing with accounting. Some accountants don't do construction accounting because it's not just like regular bookkeeping and accounting. So pay attention to some of these things to improve your way of doing things. We talked about the local, state, and federal agencies and the small businesses, but what we didn't talk about, there's some agencies within every state. The SBA, the GSA, and in the feds, you got the OSDBU, the Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization. Those are agencies and groups that will help you. The SBA, as we talked about, they have a wealth of what you need, and it's usually all free from the SBA. GSA, General Services Administration. Every state has GSA. Not too many people know about GSA and what they do. GSA buys goods and services for the federal government, but at a state level. They have offices right here in Florida or whatever state you are, and they have a procurement list that's as long as the Brooklyn Bridge that they have to buy stuff every day. However, if you don't know that and you don't form a relationship, if they know you, they're going to come to you because it makes their job easy. But if they don't know that there's a company, they'll go to the dynamic search or they'll go on SBA.gov and pull up carpenters and say, oh, well, there's so. Here's one that's in my location, my reach. They'll reach out to you that way. But that's you letting them do the work. You do the work. Find out GSA. GSA has a procurement department. They have an office in your state, wherever you are. They have one in most of the major cities. And then they have a procurement department. Find out from them who they are, get on their list, or go talk with them and find out. There's work sitting there that could be gotten by. Something else that's pretty important for large and small businesses, learn how to speak the language. You hear me and others talk a lot acronyms, and again, you have the advantage that we didn't have coming up where you can Google this stuff. What does OSDBU mean? Okay, Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization. So you got to learn the language, and it doesn't take much to start to figure it out. It would be a good practice because if you're talking to someone and you don't know the language, they could say something that you don't understand what they're talking about, and they'll pick up on it and they'll lose interest in talking to you right away. So remember, always do that. Now, something just popped to mind. For those of you that are in business and you're trying to do federal work or municipal work, when you see an advertisement, and if you go through sam.gov and sign up or get on it and you start getting these contracts, every contract they put out, there's going to be a contact person at the bottom of that advertisement with a phone number, possibly an email address. It would behoove you to reach out to that person just for casual conversation. Remember one thing, in marketing, you got to appeal to the human senses. And so when you reach out to that person, you show interest. That person said, oh, this person tried to reach me. They may not, you just leave them a message if you can't talk to them, but they'll say, oh, I remember Keith Jennings, he called and he wanted to do this and this and that. Boom. So you got to start to put these impressions out there, plant these seeds. Make sure that people know, hey, you exist. The contract states exactly what they want. That tells you this is the COR, the contracting representative on a point. POC, again, an acronym, point of contact. Contracting representative, the COR is the contracting authorized representative. They, again, have a certain amount of human nature to it. They got to be casual. They got to be nice. They got to, for the most part, answer your questions. So don't be afraid to contact them or call them. And when you do, be pointed about what you want to know. Be very pointed. And while I'm at it, there's, for those seasoned companies that are out there, there's a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. Small businesses, we don't use that as frequently and as often as we should. The Freedom of Information Act says that whatever is in the federal space, you can get access to. However, there's some nuances about that. FOIA says that, let's say I wanted to know about the Department of Defense and I wanted to know about a specific contract that they're going to put out in a year. And I wanted to know how much did they spend on that contract? Who did they award it to? How much is left on the contract? And what's the possible new contract? I could get all that information, but I have to send it in a FOIA and I have to send it in advance. The catch to it is you have to be specific about what you ask for. Because if you leave it open and you say, well, what is this, how much was that contract? They may or may not answer you because you weren't specific enough. How much did you spend on that contract from fiscal year 26 to 27? That's a 12-month period. So now tell me how much you spent on that. Then you can do the average. If it's a 5-year contract, 5 times that amount, that's a total for the whole contract. So you gotta be very specific in your ask. And the second point to FOIA, you gotta wait a while because they're not gonna rush to you. A lot of times they try to if it's a contract that you're asking about history on, they'll try to outweigh you until the deadline for the contract is over. They still have an obligation to give it to you, but you may get it after it was time to submit your bid. So be very careful, do it well in advance. What I used to do is study contracts that are a year or two out from being retired, or recompete is the word. So if I knew that I wanted to compete on a certain contract and it was a 3-year contract, yeah, on the second year, I'm starting to look at putting my preparation together as to how I'm gonna go after it. But I would FOIA to find out how much did that guy get it for? How long was it for? How much did he get for? And most importantly, how much did the government spend on it to that point, to date? Because there's people with contracts, but they ain't got no money. They haven't spent a dime on the contract. So for you to go after it and get it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. The other thing that you must do is on every base, military base of any kind, Navy, Air Force, Marine, any of the state, federal agencies, Army or whatever, they have a procurement director and they have a procurement office. You need to touch base with that office and find out, especially if it's in your neighborhood, you can request a meeting. Nowadays, they'll do it in Zoom, but you can request a meeting to do an introduction to yourself, of your company, to them. And they try to get out of the personal stuff, but in Zoom, you still are face to face. You're still able to touch base with them and show them who you are and what you can do. That first impression is lasting. Some comes up, oh, I remember this guy, we were on Zoom and he talked about doing bridge work and this and that, and he fits HubZone. The first thing they're gonna do, does he fit these categories, HubZone or woman-owned or any of that? Because they get graded for using the contract in that context. You gotta know that. This is not just a feel-good situation or they're just giving you stuff. No, they get rated by their superiors and by Congress as to how well they distributed the money based on it, because the goals are all set. So they have to do small business sets. So if you come in and you're able to do a demonstration or a presentation to them in person or on Zoom, boom, and you hit some of those boxes, they're like, oh, well, here's a veteran, a service-disabled veteran, we can set this aside. So there's a process where they can turn something from open market to a set aside. That's another thing. We won't get into that right now, but that's definitely, and Marie is nodding her head, she knows about that. The MBDA can help you with that too. If you get ahead of it and you know it's coming, you can talk to the agency and convince them that, hey, I could do this and I could get you, they can check off service disabled box, because they have to, as I said before, it was up to 3% of the federal budget has to be allocated to small business. Within the small business category, you got these other categories of veteran-owned, woman-owned, HubZone. They're all small business. But 3% of whatever $32 trillion it was at one point, that's what has to allocate to small business, the whole group of small business. And then within that, veterans get 5, HubZone gets so much, 3%, women-owned get 5%, and on and on and on. So understanding that system, you got the business up and going, you want to get into federal space now, that's where it's at. Develop marketing and strategy, and again, go ahead, Marie, I'm sorry.
Sole source.
Yeah, okay. So yeah. Now that's a good one. I'm going to touch base on that. And that is a follow-up from what I just talked about in terms of making yourself known to them and giving them. Sole source, and I got to give you my little speech, everybody. You got to know that you got, as a human being, if you want somebody to reach into their pocket and give you a money or give you a check or give you a contract, you got to appeal to as many of the 5 senses as you can, okay? And I can tell you stories where it worked for me, okay? So there was a contract, I'll make this brief. There was a contract at Army Corps of Engineers, Mobile District. I knew from my studies that the procurement office was totally females. The head of the department was a female. There was a contract coming out for some, I forgot what it was, up in Florida, northern Florida, Panhandle. And I put in my bid. Now in the federal space, you got to put your bid in a brown envelope if it's not electronic. They do allow electronic now, but back then you put a brown envelope, you put the name on it and all of that. And they have to timestamp it when it comes into the building. They have to clock it in and say you made it here before the 2 o'clock deadline. I took and I started thinking, how am I going to appeal to the as many of the 5 senses? I said, okay, my package looked good and all that. I can make it smell good. So I went and bought me a bottle of Chanel No. 5. There's nothing but women in the procurement office, right? So, and I'm telling you this because somebody told me this story back to me after it was done. I won the contract, but I put it on all 4 corners of the bid on the sheets. Put it in the brown envelope. So in the federal buildings, all the mail comes to what they call a mail stop or a mail drop. And then they got someone within the building that delivers the mail to each department, like procurement and accounting and all these different departments. So the guy that carries the mail was somebody that I always talk to when I go into Mobile District. Hey, what's up, Carlton? How you doing today, man? And we talk. So he says when he was going there, he kept smelling something, smelling nice. He's like, what is this in the basket? So when he look at it, but he's got all these other brown envelopes because everybody's envelope has to look the same. So he's got all these envelopes. He goes into the procurement office and he sets it down. He said, man, something in there smells like perfume or something. So the ladies came over and they're like, oh man, this is so-and-so. The director has her own office and they heard all the women pulling at the packages looking. She goes in there and says, what is this? Give me this one. This one smells like Chanel. And she took it and went into her office. I swear to God. The guy said, she never came back out. When I said, what do you think? Did I win it? Yeah, I won that contract. So again, be creative in your thinking. You're a business owner. Get down to business. Be creative. Think about what can get you through certain situations. Sorry for the diversion about the story, but it is a true story, and there's others like that that I've pulled off in the past. So, developing your marketing, and I'm not a big website type person. Never was. My website been there. It's so dated now. I believe in personal stuff, but again, remember, it's got your marketing. It's got to look good. It's got to be presented, but it's got to tell a story. It's got to be truthful. Okay, so people can gather info from it without having to call you. Well, what did you mean about this on there? If it's not clear and precise, then you're going to lose a customer. Because if they're going to ask you a question about your own stuff that you didn't illustrate on the document, then therein lies a problem. So you got to be able to market. And marketing is an art. It's not, if you got somebody that's a good marketing person on your staff, you should value them very well, because that is an art form. So
Did you mention the capability statement?
no, that's a part of marketing, and let's touch on that too, because thank you for that, Marie. There's a story with that, but you want to make it concise as you can. Okay, we used to see these big fold outs, hand like manila fold, open up, and then they got pockets in there, and there's loose papers in there for each. No. The lady at Jacksonville Corps of Engineers, I forgot her name right there, but she told me one time, you know what? These people, you guys give me all this stuff, and when I get to my office, it goes in file 13. I said, what's file 13? She said, the garbage can. We're not taking all that paper back home and reading all that stuff. So you have to, you give them a small one. So what I did, I took one sheet of paper and I made it into a trifold, folded it over. Then you can fold it in two and put it in your pocket. So I came, she said, you know what? Your brochure still sits on my desk because this is what I've been telling people to do. I said, you told me, and that's why I made it that way. I did a lot of work at Jacksonville Corps of Engineers, just so y'all know. Again, so the case statement, you want to be precise. You want to look at your audience. Who are you writing this to? That's the first thing. What is the purpose of this? Is it for an agency? Is it for everybody, whoever you run into? Because that you need to make sure you touch the right audience. You get to them and give them all the information that they have to contact you and only you for, hey, we want to talk, or we want to look at we see you got this capability, we want to know how well you know it, or what have you. So again, I think that's about it. Well, the only other thing was knowing your government structure wherever you're at. Look at the different agencies and create what I call a hit list or a target list. There's the counties, the cities, DOTs, Department of Transportation, colleges, universities, the rail system. There, and my targeted industries were construction, transportation, and environmental. So that was my wheelhouse. That's where I stayed. I looked at any agency or any company that does all of that. That's where we were. That's where we would try to find our work. As we started expanding and growing in those industries, that led us into other areas of expertise. But the main core competency of the company was construction, and then it went into transportation and environmental. So with that, I think I'm gonna conclude. Anyone got questions for me?
Oh yeah, we do have questions. That is a great presentation, Keith, and thank you for humanizing it, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that folks know that, okay, it's not all stiff and all of that, you can be creative. There are a lot of things you can do to really stand out. And of course, M. Gilland Associates is here to help. We're going to go to questions now. And our logistics director in the background, Heather, do you have some questions for Keith?
Yes, I do. All right, let's get into it. All right, so the first question here, Keith, it says, what are the best ways to win your first contract if you have no federal past performance?
That's a good one. Go just do a bid. There's look at projects that just ask for a price, a bid price. The evaluation factor, the federal government particularly doesn't hold that against you. They do what they call best value. Best value means, is it the best price? Is it someone that's knowledgeable in what they're doing? Do they know our agency? There's a number of factors, but it's not just about that. The price itself, when they ask for a price, that's the best type of contract you need to put in. Research it, do your homework in terms of what it's going to take you, look at your cost factor. And while we bring up price, I'm going to leave you with a little food to bite on that. Somebody taught me when I first got in business, 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. When you price out a project, you look at 1/3 for your material, 1/3 for your labor, and 1/3 for profit. Now, those numbers can be juggled either way. If you don't have a lot of labor, you can put more on profit, and you may have to put more on material. If you don't have a lot of material, you can put more on labor and more on your profit. But if you use those standards for pricing, that'll help you go a long way. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And every project that you got, there's labor, material, and obviously there's profit. So I hope that helps. Stick to bids that you just got to put a price in right now. The other type of contract is technical, that would require technical write-up or evaluation factor. If it's just straight price, that's the ones you want to get into right now.
Great. Next question, Heather.
Well, this next question, I think it ties with the first question. It says, what makes a contracting officer pick one company over another if pricing is similar?
Then they do a deep dive into your past performance. Or your references, if they ask for references, depending on what the industry is that you're in. Because the other thing is, if you met with that person before the bid came out and that person knows you, then hey, to them, that's the best recommendation in the world. I met this person at the expo. I met this person. They came in and met with me in my office. So again, going back to what we said before, get out there and start meeting and greeting people that you're going to interact with and have exchanges so that they'll remember you. Always remember, marketing, you got to appeal to the 5 senses. So make them remember you. One of my mantras is, you don't meet me, you experience me. I tell people that all the time when they meet us. And as soon as I go to an expo, hey, there's Mr. Experience, okay? So you got to come into it with a mindset that you're in business. You got to win. What's your win factor? What are you going to make yourself win with?
Wonderful. Next question, Heather.
Yes. Can you repeat the federal portals you mentioned earlier? VendorLink was one.
Voice IQ, VOICED, Voice IQ. That's a new one, by the way. And it doesn't cost. You can go on there. All you got to do is register, and they ask you a couple questions, but they limit you to how much they'll send you. SAM.gov. Register on SAM.gov. Go on to the left side, and it'll ask you to do your favorite names selection, what you want to search by. Search, and then it'll go out and search for you. Or you can just type in the SAM.gov, show me a contract with air conditioning in South Florida. And they'll just drop down a whole list of them for you. OpenGov. And then there's VendorLink.com. VendorLink, some of the municipalities utilize it as well.
Yeah.
But there's a lot more out there. So if you Google search vehicles for federal procurement, I guarantee you get a long list of the ones. Some of them are free, some of them you pay for.
Thank you, Keith. Question, Heather, any more?
Yes. As a Native American Indian myself, how do I get connected to that private auction you mentioned to be to get those grant opportunities?
Hey, you want to partner up? You want to partner up with me? Native American Indian business on my side.
Yeah, well, we did with the Miccosukee tribe years ago.
Yeah. I was there actually. Anyway, they got 2 airplanes from the auction. They didn't pay nothing for it. Remember when I was at the airport at Opelika Airport? Yeah, they came to me to inspect the planes for them. But anyway, how you do it is go again. You guys got Google now. You got ChatGPT and Google at your disposal. I didn't have all that, but I asked Google for the federal auction, and Native Americans at the federal auctions, they get first choice. So they actually, in some of the auctions, they get to go before it goes open to the public. So if you're a part of it, you need to contact one of the tribes that you may be associated with or get associated with and find out from them about these public auctions, because they would be able to give you a lot more intel and information on it. But I know that they don't bid on stuff. Now, a lot of federal auctions are done on the bid online. We've won equipment and stuff. It's a great way to get equipment. Just a tidbit of information, the federal government rotates all of their vehicles every 5 years. Some of them got real low prices and they just put them up for auction, and whoever low bid, and they start at, a lot of times they start at $5, $10 like that. It's not like a big auction for the value of the part or whatever's being auctioned. So I would say get into touch with a tribe. And also the Department of Interiors for the tribe, the person that has Indian blood, Department of Interiors, go on their website, the SBA's website, and type in all of this stuff for Native Americans, the different opportunities that are there. But the Interiors has a lot to do with the Indians. I think they're under that because the land that remember, they don't own the land. It's theirs forever, but they don't ever own it. So the Department of Interiors is the one who owns federal lands. I hope that helps.
Yes, I'm sure it does. Thank you, Heather.
Okay, so these are 2 last questions. I think they're gonna get the same response. One is, once I get certified, how do I make agencies aware of my business? The other question says, how do I form a relationship with the GSA if I'm not under dynamic search?
That's a great question, but it's a real simple answer. Mm-hmm. Every agency has a procurement director for whatever office. I'm in Florida. I don't know who it is if they're in Florida, but they have a GSA. GSA has, I think, 3 different offices here. So you just need to Google the GSA office here in your state, and then, or the website. Just go on the web and look at the, where's GSA procurement office in South Florida? And boom, pops up right in front of you. Once you get that, it may give you the address, phone number, whatever. You just start calling until you get someone to direct you to the person that can answer your question. But that's a good one to be in, because GSA buys a lot of, I can't say enough. They buy a lot of stuff. People don't realize that. That's General Services Administration. Everything to do with buildings and all that. GSA, they have a catalog that you get. Matter of fact, you can be certified for GSA. Whoever asked that question, that's a daggone good question. Go and when you get certified as a small business or whatever, and they then go to GSA and get certified on there. They accept a lot of your certifications. They will accept it and say, but they put you in their catalog, okay? Now, GSA also has a pricing situation where they'll put you in, they'll give you a GSA contract, but a GSA contract only means that you're on the list to be exclusive, okay, to bid on certain things just within your size, your categories. They pool it that way. So that's something that if you have a service like air conditioning or whatever, and you want to work locally and you get with GSA, you can get a GSA contract. So just Google GSA contracts and then start reading it and finding out where in that do you want to settle down to. But yeah, GSA has their own, what they call catalog of companies. And no, they only send their work out to people that are in those categories.
Great. Heather?
Yes, one more just came in. You had mentioned the Society of Military Organization. Can you just repeat that that part?
Society of Military Engineers. They have chapters in almost every state. If you're a professional, PE, PG, or architect or engineer, you need to be a part of that. Right here in South Florida, they have one. The best one is the Suncoast. It's in Melbourne, right up but the beauty of that one is you got Cape Canaveral, you got Patrick Air Force Base, you got MacDill, all up in that Tampa, Orlando area. And so and I think the fee is like $112 a year or something. They have monthly meetings. And I used to drive from Miami and go up to the Orlando to the luncheon meeting once a month, just because they got intel inside, because you got military people that are out there working and no contracts coming up, but they're sitting at the table, we're having lunch and chatting. So the Society of Military Engineers, there is a South Florida chapter. Start with that one, wherever you're from, they have them there. And you're gonna be mingling with agency people, but more importantly, people in the government or in the military. But those are engineer types, so they know stuff. Good question.
Wow. Heather, I think that's it for the questions.
We have a comment, yes, but there's a comment here that says, "Good job, Keith and Marie. When will the recording be available?"
Okay,
That's it.
your question.
Right,
Heather.
comment. Oh, sorry. So the recording will be available. We'll be sending out an email after the recording, after the webinar, and that will provide you with the link. We also will have the recording available on our YouTube channel, and that information will be available as well. Thank you.
Okay, wonderful. So if you're listening, you must have joined and given us your email and so forth, so we can get to you. All right. Wow, Keith. I was gonna say you haven't changed a bit, but you have, every time I hear you, I hear new things. You think you know this thing, but you never really know it all, so to speak, so this is wonderful. Thank you so much. Can you just touch a little bit on IMR Development Corp so people know who that is? Yeah.
IMR Development Corp is a underground and an above ground construction company, contractor licensed in the state of Florida. We also are now gotten involved from the underground, we do water and sewer pipe drain cleanage and repair of the underground piping. But from that led us into hurricane and disaster recovery and cleanup work, where we actually have to go and pump out the drains, pump out the debris and sediment from the pipes to keep it clean. And in construction, we do a lot of vertical construction, airports. We've done a lot of work at Miami Airport, Fort Lauderdale Airport, West Palm. As far as construction is concerned, we've done, those of you in Florida, the Performing Arts Center, we have a niche, niche markets. We have a niche where we do QA, QC, quality control, quality assurance. So we've done the Performing Arts Center downtown. We've done the Miami Heat Arena. We've done the American Airlines Super 8 concourse that used to be the old Pan Am hangar. All of that construction was overseen by my firm. So that's just a bit of it. We've done metro rail inspections, overhead concrete work, and that sort of thing. So that's just a bit of what we do. Now we're moving into a brand, which is going to incorporate other companies with IMR, that now we can help and teach and show folks how to get into what we just discussed, how we make them prosper and grow.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Right. There's so many folks out there that are trying to do this thing, but if you don't have the background, And if you're not able to humanize your proposal in a way that, okay, it appeals to the evaluators, then you can be skilled at something, and because of how you present yourself, you don't get the opportunities. So the presentation that you spoke about is really, really important, and that's where we come in, because we will have something to a request from a client that needs technical assistance, needs our help, and we may have to reach out to Keith. We don't know it all, but we have partners like Keith who can help us to address questions from folks who are interested in entering the procurement space. I want to ask you about teaming, because sometimes if a company is just starting out, how do they get connected on a contract? Because sometimes it's hard to win your first one just with you if you have not had some experience working, with another company. Is that important anymore? Can you just win this?
No, it is important. The game has changed when it comes to teaming.
Yeah.
There's partnerships. In the federal space, you can do a teaming agreement. And it's that is both parties agree to explaining the participation level, whether it's with equity in it or whether it's what. There's another thing called a joint venture agreement. And the joint venture agreement is a legal, both of them are legal documents, but the joint venture agreement in most states, in Florida, for instance, I do not recommend joint ventures to people because it typically with a big company and a small company. If it's same size companies and they joint venture, that's fine. But when you do a large firm, the large firm goes in and tells, or you tell the government, hey, I got a big brother, we're in a joint venture agreement. But a joint venture agreement is for a project, for a period of time, and for an amount. Now, what the large firms do in joint ventures, which was a big game for them, they make money and hand over fist. Take a small guy like me and say, hey, I'll help you get this $10 million contract. I'll get the bond for you, all this stuff. But what happens is the large company has all these fees that you have to pay out of that contract. So if you were working on a 15% margin or a 10% margin, the other thing is at the end of the term of the contract, everything has to be split back up. And they get what they're supposed to get and you get what you're supposed to get. So if they gave you intellectual assets, computer software, if they gave you technical expertise like engineers and architects to work with you and built you to this level, when that contract is over, unless you get another job that you can give to them, they're yanking all that and go somewhere else to get it done. So, and you're getting charged fees for all of those things that they gave you. They take it back out of the contract. So you better be smart enough in a joint venture to say, hey, let me start building up on my own. So when these guys are gone, I'm not back in the same place I started. So I always say that joint ventures, you really need to dissect it and make sure you're protected, because I've seen companies go out of business here in Miami from doing joint ventures with big firms that we all know, and they didn't care at all. They just go next. Who's next? Yeah,
Great.
a teaming agreement, a lawyer can make it up, and after that, it could be. The one thing with federal work, if you're certified in any category, remember, you have to do 51% of the work, and you have to be 51% own and control the business. Okay, my theory is don't make it 51%, make it 60%, so that there's no misunderstanding, there's no nothing, because as you start to dissect, when you do the 51%, you can dilute, or if you sell shares or whatever, all of a sudden you got 3 or 4 partners and they got 10, 15% each. Well, you're not the minority. When they add, if they all come together and add up, that's called a hostile takeover. You end up with less than 51% because you did shares of bringing them in because you needed technical expertise. So you got to be very careful about that. Teaming is fine as long as it's just a standard document. Lawyer can do it. There's some online. The feds have documents that they'll accept. The SBA can do it, and basically that's fine. To me, that's the best way to do it. And you still can get the same thing. The company pledges to give you this, give you that. but it all talks at a rate or a fee. But they don't tell you that in the beginning. They just say at a rate. They don't tell you how much it is. So then when the contract goes, as they're getting paid, they're asking back, as you're getting paid on the contract, they're wanting to, oh, well, you got to pay us for the software. You got to pay us for this, for that. So your 10, 15% comes down to 5 or 8%.
Wow. Well, you know, consulting fees are usually kind of high from some folks, but how important is it for you to have an attorney and a CPA on your
I mentioned that in the beginning. That's what you gotta have 3 friends. You gotta have a lawyer, a CPA, and what was the third one? I mentioned that in my talking earlier.
Well, you gotta have MGIL, I know, but
Oh, lawyer, you gotta have accountant, lawyer, and a mentor. That was the other one. Accountant, lawyer, and a mentor. Somebody who knows that business. Go get an older person that's already retired or whatever. Bring them on as a consultant, or create a board of trustees and put them on the board. So when you want to bounce ideas or get information, you got them there. You break them off a little something every so often, every month or whatever, once you're doing good. But always have somebody that's smarter than you that you can talk to about the subject matter.
okay, wonderful. I think there's no need to read no bio about Keith today.
No, we're good. We're good.
This is a powerhouse of information, and thank you for sharing so freely and digging so deeply into what startups and growing businesses need to do to survive and to expand. So we are going to move on now, Keith. So
All right.
yeah, I want to thank you so much. This was awesome information for me and for everyone who was tuned in today. And we will have the information available. Heather is going to do her follow-up to thank everyone for joining and send the information. And of course, we will have the recording online as well. You'll get all that information. But
Right. If anybody wants to contact me, contact me through MBDA. They'll give you the number.
yeah, we'll give the information. Thanks a lot, Keith. And
all right. Have a good day, guys. Appreciate you. All right.
Take good care. Let's move on. Heather, thank you so much, our logistics person in the background. Upcoming events, of course, we are the MedWeek coordinators in Florida. So the 44th Regional MedWeek is coming up. This is a save the date flyer. If you don't have it yet, we will send it to you. But it's November 19th this year from 10 a.m. until 5 p.m. And of course, as you know, we focus on access to capital, access to contracts, and access to global markets. So everything we do has something to do with procurement or financing or exporting or growing your business in some other way. Right now, we are also engaged with AI to make sure that our clients and the business community understands how to use AI to augment their business processes. And you can get in trouble doing that. So there are experts who can tell you, you have to be careful about that, because you can't just rely on a computer to tell you everything that you need to know. All right, so MedWeek, we want you to save the date. We'll send this out for you. All right, next, Heather. Oh, the early bird tickets are going on sale May 1st. So the pricing for MedWeek, since it's in November, we thought we would take some time and do some graded pricing so that you can get on the early bird price. So you will get that from us shortly. This is the Florida Free Export Academy, which we started. This is a project of MGill and Associates. We designed it, and we have registered. Well, so many people have registered. I think we're close to the 2,000 mark now. It's an online training and export connectivity platform. It offers a 12-module on-demand export-ready certificate course for new to export businesses and a repository of trade statistics and resources that are accessible to registered members of the Academy to support their development. So that is, in a nutshell, what this is. Next slide, please. We want you to take advantage of it. We will send this to you, and you will see how to access it. And this is just an overview of, well, it is all the companies that contributed to making the Florida Export Academy possible. There's a registration fee, and then the cost, we have waived the cost of going through the program and all of that. You just have to register and get in, fill out the application, and get going. And as you can see, we have a lot of the local companies and banks. We got Bank United. We've got Broward County and Miami-Dade County and the city of Miami are always very supportive of our programs, but we got help from a lot of folks, the U.S. Virgin Islands Economic Development Authority and Select Florida, the World Trade Center, got a lot of folks, Camacol, and the Jamaica Stock Exchange, the Jamaica USA Chamber of Commerce, Florida Export Finance Corporation, the U.S. Commercial Service, SBA. You heard Keith talk a lot about the SBA and all the programs, the 8A, the Hub Zone, and so forth. Well, SBA is our partner on the Export Academy as well. And when you go, you will see all of them. Exim Bank, which is the bank that finances export products and export initiatives. You get in touch with us, we'll give you the hookup with Exim. And of course, Miami-Dade Aviation, Miami-Dade County, we can always count on them for support. I don't know if I mentioned Broward County, but Miami-Dade, Broward, and now we are connecting with Palm Beach in a stronger way. And we have MOUs with a lot of the organizations so that we can, you know, get information, get updates, and so on. The Organization of Women in Trade, those women are, those organizations focus on women, but in a way that gets you connected with a certain group of folks that are focused on international trade and export. So if you're interested in exports, that's a good group to be connected with. Okay, there's a lot to say about this. There's a QR code there. You can click on it, and that will get you to the Export Academy site. Okay, Heather. Okay, that is, or I don't see the MGIL. I was going to go through some of the services that MGIL provides, but we do operate the Export Center program that the MBDA started. And so we're the export gurus now. So anything that you need to know about exporting to get you your export marketing plan and to help you decide which countries are buying what you're selling, or to get connected with the companies in these countries. We have relationships that help us to do this. The federal government has boots on the ground in countries all over the world. We work with the SBDC folks who do a lot of export services as well. The U.S. Commercial Service is all over the world, so to speak, and so is Exim Bank. And so we're partners with these folks, and as a result, we can get you the information and the connection that you need to export. It's very important that we consider exporting, because a large percentage, sometimes I hear it's 80 something, sometimes I hear it's 95 and more. Well, 95% of our customers are not next door or in the next state, they are overseas. And we want to make sure that we tap into that export market. I stress on that because it's very important that a lot of you and a lot of us that are poised for export are really a little bit afraid of it because you don't know. So if you want to know, just talk to us and we can help you, and go to the Export Academy site and see how you feel about what you see there. All right. We know that Keith talked a lot about certification. We can help you with all of them: WBE, MBE, DBE, the SBE for the local organizations. And there are other kinds of certification, the GSA certification, the Hub Zone certification, the 8A certification. We can help you with all of those. We've been doing this for over 30 years, so I think we have a clue as to how to do this. And we have also had contracts with the U.S. Department of Commerce for just as long. So we've been in this federal procurement space for a long time, and we have financing partners. If you're looking for finance, startup money, or other kinds of financing or investment, just talk to us and we'll be able to help you. Okay, so we're helping businesses survive and thrive. Your success is our priority. If you don't succeed, then we don't succeed. So shoot us an email, marie@mgillonline.com or admin@mgillonline.com. And that will get you to someone in our office who can help you. You may also call 786-515-0670. And Heather, I think we've come to the end. Yes? Okay. Yes. Thank you very much. I want to thank my team for their hard work and their support in keeping M. Gill and Associates going, in managing our export program and our academy program and our business center program. We are excited that we have this opportunity to serve so many businesses across the country and in other countries. So thank you again for joining today's webinar. Thank you for your questions and for staying the course and for participating, making Keith feel really good that, okay, he was resonating with the audience. Until next Wednesday, take good care of your business, of yourself, and of each other. Okay, thank you, Heather.